I'd like to invite the next speaker, Mr. Tapas Kumar Banik. He is a senior corporate banking executive with an international bank and currently heads the sales function for financial institution group covering global trade. He has over 17 years of banking experience and has worked across various Indian markets and functions. He is also a prominent speaker, thought leader at various industry conferences and educational institutions, and has been involved in several social activities involving promoting green environment and education for the underprivileged. We invite Mr. Tapas Kumar to share his experience on the fundamentals of fundraising.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is an occasion where academia, industry, government regulators are present. And the topic itself, or if you look at the theme, which is Tech for Ed, it's all about how are we enabling technology in our education. Let me start with a very basic Indian historical shloka, which clearly says, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. The whole essence of India's entrepreneurial journey has started then. What we have done or what we have developed, I think I have been seeing the sessions for the last 18 odd hours. And then I have seen Revolution 1.0, 2.0, 3.2, maybe a 4.0. I've also seen the august speakers here who have been sharing their experiences about how a startup has to evolve, how a startup has to plan its journey. In fact, we have also seen just now Policy Bazaar's journey, right, from where it started from a seed to becoming a unicorn. Let me share you my personal experience. I was fortunate to work with the startup industry for over 3.5, 4 years. As a corporate banker who has managed large conglomerates, when this whole theory of startup started, trust me, it lacked a lot of belief in people. I remember 5 years, 6 years down the lane when somebody used to say at a discussion on his dining table with his parents that I'm going to do a startup. The parents used to just ignore it. There was lack of belief. There was lack of trust. Now, what is this whole theory of startup? Let me start with that. It is not something which is new, as I said. India has got great conglomerates from the Tatas to the Reliances. It was also at one point of time a small journey, a startup. Maybe the word was not yet pristine, but now we have christened a word called startup. There are many thousands of startups which India produces, but do we know the reality and do we know the thumb rule? 1 out of 4 startups die their own deaths. That is the hard and heart-hitting reality. I just heard Mr. Tyagarajan mention about a point that while I speak, I want to be not sweet, I want to actually talk the truth. And this is the truth. 1 out of every 4 startups die their own death. And the reason I'll tell you, it's not that they don't have a great product. It's not that they don't have a visionary approach. It's not that they don't have a great team. It's the problem of comparison. There are so many youngsters out there. I'm sure you have an aspiration. I'm sure you have an aspiring leadership where you would want to aspire and become something like that, right? There's no harm in that. You inculcate great attributes from it, but never start comparing your journey with somebody else's. The journey which an X company has is quite different from a journey a Y has. Now, when I actually talk about my interaction with the startups, I have seen companies which are bootstrapped. I have seen companies which have raised money decent enough. I've seen companies which are unicorns yet to become unicorns, and I've also seen and worked with unicorns. Now, the fundamental difference between that journey is the mission statement. And a great word somebody has coined today in the morning session is resilience. Not everybody is able to hold on to that resilience when they start their journey. Let me give an example. Most of you have seen the movie called Super 30. How many of you have seen a movie called Super 30? A Hrithik Roshan movie. Okay. Just for larger audience, there's a gentleman by name Dr. Anand. He's a professor. He teaches students for IITs. And he's recently got also his Padma Shri. Now, in his batch, he has picked students from interiors of Bihar, interiors of UP, etc. And he has made a batch of 30 guys. And he ensured that these 30 get into the IITs. And his strike rate has been 99%. Now, I was fortunate to interact with a couple of his Super 30 batch students. I'll tell you, this is a realistic story. I have met him in IIT Bombay, being a banker. He came to me and said, this is what we want to do, this is what we have ambition, and the product was at a beta stage. I asked him a simple question that, hey, look, you are an IIT grad. For you to get into an SFO is just your choice, right? But you have chosen something which has lot of resilience, which needs lot of resilience, which has difficult path ahead, and what you intend to do is more of a social cause and does not involve a commercial cause. Guess what would be his answer? He said, Sir, मेरे को जो मैंने सीखा है मेरे गुरु से, मेरे को वही करना है. अगर वो मुझे उस गांव से जहां पे where there was no electricity, there was no bus for me to come to a higher educational school, it used to take 30-40 kilometers from a remote village. He has chosen me and he brought me to a daylight where I could actually make myself an impactful student. It is because of that individual's thought. He never thought of a commercial aspects of it. And I would want to reciprocate and I would want to resonate the same intent when I actually see a youngster. Now this individual today has, his product is launched. He is tied up with the best universities in US, Singapore, and he is working with a couple of Indian universities. He picks up 7 students. His product today has ability for a student of class 7 to 10 to understand the behavioral aspiration when somebody answers a question of a IIT. When you write an exam for a JIPMER or an IIT, there are a lot of key tests which is available, open sources, right? So his intent is, if a student is appearing for that exam and if he has selected a question from a key of A, B, C, D, and if he has selected a question answer D, there has to be a specific reason that he has selected the answer D. It is not that whether it is a right answer or a wrong answer. It is the approach. So what I am trying to give you a perspective is that there are institutions, there are these entrepreneurs today in our society who are also working for a larger cause. Now let me give you an example of how a fundraising can actually be an impactful or actually can make or break a large institution's success or failure rate. Now we have seen companies which are bootstrapped. In my interaction with a lot of companies at a bootstrap stage, I clearly tell them, why do you need to go for a valuation game right now? You are at a bootstrap stage. Do not dilute your stake at this point of time. Now the point here is, As you all have seen the movie Three Idiots, there's a rat race. There's a rat race going, people are competing against each other. He said कि सर अगर मैं अभी मेरे valuation पे नहीं जाऊँगा, अगर मैं अभी raise नहीं करूँगा, तो tomorrow I might be behind somebody else's. I said that's the difference. Today there are a lot of startups who have not diluted but fundamentally have been able to sustain a strong balance sheet. Their bottom lines are very, very strong. I'm not saying that fundraising is not important. I'm saying fundraising is important at the right interval. You just heard a great story of Policy Bazaar. They have actually used it, timed it so well. They have timed their IPO so well. Now the point I'm trying to give you here is, when you start an entrepreneurial journey, don't think that fundraising is the most and the foremost essential aspect of it. It can't be your need. It should not be your need. It should be a catalyst for your growth. Similarly, people say, right, don't go behind valuations. Believe in your product, believe in your team, and believe in your mission statement. Taking a step back, I've also seen companies who have raised decent enough of rounds. Suddenly you see market taking a nosedive. We know what happened. If you look at the figures, from a $11 billion of fundraise in last year, this year it's been close to $2 billion. That's a fundraise probably the Indian startup will raise. It's a 73% dip. Now what has happened to those startups which could not sustain? We have seen the pandemic hitting. We have seen so many companies, forget about startups. Every company had to get back to their boardrooms and redo their strategies. Trust me, the companies which were able to pivot, they were able to sustain this. Now that is something which I would want the new generation to think. There is no harm if you think that the product cycle of yours or your company needs a pivot. But it's important that you need to also ascertain at what time do I need to go there. Slightly moving ahead, I would not want to talk about the unicorns and the unicorns because they have already made their mark and they are actually contributing larger costs for the society's benefit. But I'm more interested in the early stage because that's where I would say the funnel can produce more and more efficient and the strongest startups in the coming days. Look at what's happening today. Every state government today is focusing on this sector, on this segment. Every industry is doing so. Look at the large conglomerates today in India. Every large conglomerates today have an interest in what's happening in this ecosystem. How are they able to identify those great founders or those great startups so that they are able to go there and look at an acquisition strategy? Now the point which I am trying to make here is, this is an industry which is booming. It needs a right shaping. It also needs a great support from the regulators, from the government. Now I am very pleased to say that every state today, when they are setting up incubation centers, I visited many of them and I find that energy which is coming out from the colleges, when they are getting an opportunity to be part of that incubation, there is a lot of zeal, there is a lot of push that they want to do something really, really great. But one point which I would always want them to always keep it in mind, that the road ahead is not safety. The road ahead will have a lot of turbulences. The road ahead will have challenges. The road ahead will have problems. Now, if somebody today, a startup, is finding themselves in a difficult position, if they are not able to sustain, every second day you are seeing that companies today, because the fundraising has dropped, there has been significant cut down in the manpower. There is a lot of people getting retrenched. Every second day you see a startup story coming out. Because there are companies, when they were able to raise, they have accelerated their growth journey in a way that they never thought, how do I actually manage my bottom line? मिल रहा है तो ले लेते हैं, अभी मिल रहा है तो अभी ले लेते हैं, right? That was a kind of a theory which prevailed, and that's the reason why you are seeing a lot of startups started, a lot of startups have closed. So fundamentally, my 2 bits about this generation, the Gen Z, is no doubt that you are innovative. No doubt that every B school today, whether it's a tier 1 or a tier 2 or a tier 3, has got an entrepreneurship cell which is in-house. There is great industry academia collaboration which is visible now, which was not there 10 years ago. But it is now very, very visible. The point which is more important here is, how do you take it to a next stage? How are you going to take it to a next level? There is so much of opportunity today. Let me give you an example of Israel as a country. Israel is collaborating on a lot of cross-border startups. They are producing engineers. They are investing heavily on AI and ML. They are collaborating with countries cross-border. They are actually running hackathons. They are sending their startups to other countries to identify the market opportunities there and then. Now, this is what I call is the right direction. Even if you look at India today, there are Indians who are leading the stack in Silicon Valley. Now, my only, I would say, a humble request to the new generation is, be very, very thick with your idea. Do not dilute that. If you have an idea, that's where you will create the spark. Because it's very easy at a stage where you are in today. Somebody says, hey, why are you doing this? Do this because somebody who has done that is able to succeed faster. Never go by that logic. Go by your intent. Go by your product. Go by what your team says. Go by what was your initial mission when you started your journey. The moment you get these basics right, I think rest is all covered by all other august speakers. But these are a few points which I would want to reiterate today to the young audience, that believe in your story. I'm not sure how many of you have today heard about Prime Minister's 𝐴𝐻 𝐵. I think this was also brought up today. The way the young India is growing, the way India's startup is growing. So with that, I would want to conclude, and let me thank KC Global, ICT, and my good friend Madhu, who insisted me that I should come and speak here. Thank you so much. I hope it was useful.